back of the 8 spot, only one back of the Lakers in the 9 spot.
Let's get back to some football now. Moving on to the Steelers. It wasn't long ago we were talking about all the potential for a Steelers team with the 3 Bs in their prime: Big Ben, Lev Bell, and Antonio Brown. Well, with AB's situation up in the air, it appears the window is closing on an era that had such great hope. Looks like only one of the Bs will remain on the roster now, and that's Big Ben. But JuJu Smith Schuster isn't giving up hope just yet. Take a listen.
In my dream world, what would I have? I would have Le'Veon Bell as a running back with Jim Connor. I'll have AB on I'll stay on the other side. And when we're winning the Super Bowl with the guys that we have, the guys that we keep. Obviously, it's tough, situations like that where you can't control, with Art Rooney doing it and Mike Tomlin with that situation. But, yeah, for me, it's more so like, man, let's keep the guys the team that's winning the Super Bowl. Like, let's stop all the bullshit.
All right, what do you think, CeCe? Let's talk about the prognosis here for the Steelers and what they look like for next season. Do they still have a chance to work things out with Antonio Brown?
Well, JuJu Schuster, they definitely not going to have the team he envisions. Oh, man, get this guy, get this guy, get this guy. Because he's not making a whole bunch of money right now, so it don't matter to him who's on the team. Well, go get this guy. Then he put out a shout-out for Art Rooney so to make sure that he feels okay about him moving into the future. The Pittsburgh Steelers, since I've known them, they've always drafted and develop talented players. Now, so you talked about them moving on from L. Bell, moving on from AB. They've done this, just say in the last 10 or 15 years. Who else have they moved on from? Hines Ward, Jerome Bettis, all right? Mike Wallace.
Right, Emmanuel Sand.
Like, they moved on from a bunch of guys. Drafted Plaxico Burress, developed him, sent him off. Like, so, JuJu, just relax. They're going to draft some good players. They're going to develop players just like yourself. Now, this window is gone. I didn't think they would win a Super Bowl because I knew that how they function as the Pittsburgh Steelers with those 3, that being AB, Ben, there was a lot of dysfunction there. And I thought that it would get between them what the potential of the team was and what they would actually accomplish. Now, we as fans, we can't vouch for being L. Bell, that contract there. We've never seen a situation like that. So how do we equate that into their success? Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do business a certain way, and how they decide to do business has cut into the potential of this group, how long they could stay together. They have made a decision as an organization. Ben Roethlisberger is their quarterback. They didn't just make this decision. They made that long time ago when Ben was on that team as a young player that went to the Super Bowl. They made that decision with L. Bell. Ben was a priority. Now with AB, they're making the decision again. Ben is the priority. That's how they're going to move forward. So they're going to draft other players. They're going to develop other players. Pittsburgh has been very, very consistent at that. And I can't fault the organization, because they have drafted, they've put coaches there, that they had opportunity to be in the game that we're talking about right now. They blew those opportunities.
So I think we can disregard the first part of his soundbite. Le'Veon Bell is gone. He's an unrestricted free agent. He can go wherever he wants. The Steelers are not going, they might make him a cursory offer, but he is going to get big money.
He won't be back in Pittsburgh.
We know he's not going to be back. Antonio Brown, the door is still open. I would say it is more likely than not that they end up trading him. But as we've talked about, early in March, they owe him a roster bonus. They're not going to pay him that roster bonus and then trade him. So the fact that we have not heard, the most definitive commentary we've heard from the Steelers, I thought, was the ownership, Art Rooney II, when he came out shortly after the season and made it sound like it's over for Antonio Brown in Pittsburgh. Since then, it feels like the commentary from the team has softened that stance slightly. But as we have discussed before, it's one thing if the Steelers want to reconcile. What evidence do we have whatsoever that Antonio Brown wants to reconcile? I think Antonio Brown feels like, and maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong, but I'm going to be an all-pro, I'm going to be a great player, and I'm going to get my money anywhere. If he wants to reconcile, he's not posting Photoshop pictures of himself in a Niners jersey. He's not doing, and one thing we didn't hear in that interview with JuJu, and JuJu was on a bunch of platforms yesterday, is, oh, I've talked to Antonio, and he told me he definitely wants to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. right? Like, he wasn't able to tell us that. And so I don't think it's impossible Antonio comes back, but it would take not a phone call, not a text exchange, a sit down between he, Mike Tomlin, and maybe some other parties as well, that I don't think Antonio's interested in, even if the Steelers might be interested in it.
If he is interested, if he does come back, what do you think is the harder relationship to men, CC? Antonio Brown and Mike Tomlin, or Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger?
Mike Tomlin. Because Ben's had other wide receivers he's had difficult situations with. They'll get beyond that. You know the reason why? Because Ben's got the ball. And the only way to AB to be able to do his deal is to get the ball from the quarterback. So regardless of how much a wide receiver wants to complain, at the end of the day, the quarterback is almost always right because he's making the decisions. Now, I know Ben was also right in AB didn't run the right route. Now, people will say, well, Ben was wrong for calling him out. Yeah, he was wrong for that. But the principle of it, AB, and he's done this for a long time as far as, oh, I'm going to ad lib. Oh, I'm going to do something else. And this time it made Ben look bad. And Ben was like, listen, enough of that. So I'm going to let the cat out the bag and tell the public what really happened. So the quarterback, that situation, we've seen that. That's rectified all the time. Mike Tomlin and the message point to the rest of the team. How is he able to be consistent? He's changed a couple coaches. Now he's going to have to change a few players. If he wants to gain control back of that football team, he's going to have to be able to do something to AB. He's got to be able to penalize him for walking out on the team. And the team has to be able to see some type of consistency from the time they make an announcement and what Mike Tomlin does with the other players, because the players see through that all the time. So if he's not consistent, it will eat away at his ability to be able to lead the team.
And if I'm Mike Tomlin, if they do move on from Antonio Brown, I am trying to get as close as possible with JuJu and try to help JuJu learns the lessons of Antonio Brown, which is, hey, man, no matter how productive you are. JuJu was team MVP this year. He had 1,500 yards. He was out, or 1,200 yards. He was outstanding. But it can go sideways. It went sideways. You mentioned Hines Ward and Jerome Bettis. Those guys retired. Mike Wallace, didn't want to pay him, move on. Emmanuel Sanders, move on. Like Antonio Brown, looks like those guys were very high-level players. To get JuJu to learn, yeah, you can learn from AB's work ethic and you can learn from his production, but there are other things he could have done better that would have helped him remain a Pittsburgh Steeler for life that we hope you can do, because what JuJu doesn't have that Antonio has. JuJu's a good player, but he doesn't have the transcendent greatness Antonio does to where they are almost forced to put up with nonsense the way the Steelers had been for the last few years with Antonio.
All right, good point. Nick, time now for your fantasy update, sponsored by DraftKings. All right, give us one star that's worth the money and one sleeper that's a good value pick for Sunday's game.
All right, the star to me is easy. Todd Gurley's $13,500 DraftKings dollars. I do not think the Rams offense is going to be functional without Todd Gurley having a monster game, running the ball and out of the backfield. He's the fourth most expensive player, but to me, he's worth it at $13,500. You're going to spend that money on Gurley. You got to go real cheap on the other option. How about Gerald Everett, the tight end for the Rams? They haven't used tight ends much at all this year, but we also know the Patriots, where their pass coverage has been the weakest, is against two tight end sets as opposed to the one the Rams like to run. He might be on the field more than he's been most of the year. Only 3,000 DraftKings bucks, a flyer on Gerald Everett.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about Todd Gurley because New England has dominated time possession in the postseason. Man, they have the ball 35, 38 minutes. Todd Gurley, maybe his rushes get cut into there. Do believe he is their featured running back in this, not like the Saints game in a
Julian Edelman, number one, huh?
Julian Edelman's most expensive DraftKings player.
All right, the big game is just 3 days away, and DraftKings is cranking things all the way up with their Championship Millionaire Contest. For the first time ever, DraftKings is offering a contest for the big game with $3 million in total prizes and a $1 million top prize that you can play for free. Just sign up using promo code FS1 and draft 6 players for your shot at the top prize. Still have questions? We got you covered.